It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take 5, the 5-minute version of Take Command that inevitably will go more than 5 minutes. But Logan, story time. You got to interview Magic Johnson, an interview that people will get to see on Command Center, coming up on the Commanders YouTube page. How was interviewing Magic Johnson?
It was cool. Like, I think I told you, like, I had like a really busy morning. So like I went to the high school, coached the high school, popped in, had to take care of some logistical things here in the office. And I didn't really have time to think about it. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to interview Magic. He seemed like a good dude. When I bumped into him at the thing, seemed like that's going to be super easy. And then everybody here was in such a state. Like everyone was like, oh my gosh, Magic's coming. Oh my gosh, he's going to be here in 10 minutes. And there was like a countdown in the building. 30 minutes, 20 minutes. And I was like, well, I should probably be more nervous about this. And so, we go and sit down and like, I'm like, oh gosh, like I guess, and like, it's like, how do we start the interview? Like what's going on? And they wanted it to be kind of like this freestanding thing. So that becomes a little bit weird because you're not coming off of anything. It's kind of like you just starting it. And the more time we had to think about it, the more nervous you get. And he comes in and he's like incredibly gracious. And we sat down for probably 7 to 10 minutes and just answered very candidly some really cool questions. And, Fred and Tana had some awesome questions. And it was just really great. Like in the interview, I was like, man, it's really, because I was like, what do we call you? He's like, call me Magic. And at the end of the interview, I'm like, it's really cool to get to call you Magic. Thanks for joining this kind of thing. And I never would have thought in my entire life that I would have that opportunity. And for him to be so cool about it was also very cool.
I mean, that's why he's Magic. Like he's
Magic.
Like that's the thing. His people skills are incredible.
Yes.
By the way, if people want to know more on Magic, the Apple TV documentary on him, the 4-parter that came out last summer, is amazing. And it talks about like all the different sides of him throughout his career, and like, but when he turns it on, and like there's an Irvin to him, like his given name Irvin, and like that's the business side, and Irvin is like very serious and all that kind of stuff, and a little more buttoned up perhaps, but Magic is this gregarious personality, and that is also an equal part of him, and it's just like that's really cool. And I think there's a couple of interesting things here. One, like, yes, you got to interview Magic Johnson, like one of the 25 most famous people on the planet for the last 50 years. Like,
it was crazy.
It's Magic freaking Johnson. But I'm also curious, on a much less serious note, how often in your life have you felt small? Because Magic is 6'9", and I
thought I would feel smaller when I went over and like shook his hand, but I was like, Logan, you're not that much smaller than him. Like, because he's a little older now. Like,
right.
Everyone kind of shrinks as they get older. He's still big. He's still a very tall human being. But I wasn't quite as like, oh my gosh, he's huge. Because I think also I'm used to the guys that make me feel really small are guys that are tall and guys that are wide. So like when you hug Trent Williams or when you dap Trent Williams up, he's not as tall as Magic, but he makes you feel like a child, like a little baby, And I didn't get that same vibe from Magic, But he is a big man. I didn't feel quite that small, but. Yeah, he's what is he? He's probably 6'8", 6'9" right now. So
yeah, he's probably still at least 6'8". I mean, he was listed at 6'9" when he played. I always find it funny, like the height versus like width thing.
Yeah.
There's this great picture from, I don't know, it's got to be 10 years old at this point, but it was Hannah Storm, the ESPN anchor. And then on either side of her, like I think it was a picture at the ESPYs, is Derek Fisher, the former Lakers point guard, and Clay Matthews. And Clay Matthews is thought of as like a big dude. He's a linebacker, like, oh, this is a big dude.
Yeah.
And Derek Fisher was a small point guard, and they are the same size.
It's like those pictures of Shaq, like when Shaq's standing with like The Rock, and The Rock looks like his kid. Yeah. And The Rock's a huge man too. So
right, and like obviously Clay's shoulders are a little bit bigger, but like Derek Fisher, small point guard, is 6'2".
Yeah,
like. That's the basketball thing is always crazy, but that makes sense that like if you're used to Trent Williams, Trent's like 6'5",
6'4" and a half, 6'5", but he's 330. He's a big guy.
The shoulders are you and me together, and you played NFL football.
And the hand is a different size. The hand when Trent's hand hits you, it feels like you're grabbing a brick. And like there's just something different about like a big offensive lineman will make you feel really small because like they're so powerful. Like when they grab you, you're like, oh no, like I'm not ready
Right.
for all that. You know what I'm saying? And like they're not trying to be mean. They're just messing around. And it's just like I think it's the strength and like the size, the girth of the person that also is a little bit,
Yeah. So okay, so you didn't feel like a child.
No, he's a big
but
guy.
he's a big.
Don't
dude.
get me wrong, he's a
Right.
big man, but I wasn't like I felt smaller. You know, like Trent Brown, for example. Trent Brown's a guy that I played with in San Fran. He's 6'8", but he's also 4'15". So like when you're near him, you're like a planet. You know, that makes me feel smaller. So
right, he's a planet. You're just like a little moon rotating around.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, back to Magic and more interesting things. Most interesting thing from the interview that people should go watch.
Gosh, I mean, there was so like I ever feel like, and this is like to your point, like that magic, you know, like element of it. Like every answer he said, I was like, that's like the best answer I've ever heard. Like you know, it's like, how do you create a winner? Oh, you know, and I was like, wow, that's really insightful. How did you keep your edge? Oh, this is, you know, blah 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 blah. And I just was like, whoa, like, and for him to just be so on and give such good answer. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not hyping this up because it was our interview. Like, I was just like in awe. Like I had to like think of questions to ask, so it wasn't like a total awe, but it's like I was like, what a great answer. Like that's a perfect answer. And it was just, he was so casual and so at ease. And you could just tell he could do that in his sleep, you know, like that's just how he is. But I think if you're going to watch anything about the interview, it's that like that personality, that professionalism, the thoughtfulness, it's all there, you know, and his ability to kind of just seamlessly fall into the chemistry of the group, like three guys that he's never met before. And it kind of felt like we were friends, you know what I mean? Like, that's him. Yeah. That's not us. That's him kind of settling into the tempo and cadence of the interview. So just that was super impressive. I'd say probably the most impressive thing.
That's really cool. And people like somehow I think Magic has gotten underrated now. Like dude's career was 12 years long. He went to 9 NBA finals and won 5 of them. Yeah. So like as a player, as elite as it comes, just as a competitor was insane and so successful. And then obviously he became a billionaire in business, so he's pretty good at that. But at the to that point though, to your last point, he's still an athlete at his core. Like this was one of the best NBA players ever. So he gets around a couple other athletes. Like that's actually not surprising, but is also still at his age and where he is in life, considering very, very, very impressive. Excited to watch that. Thanks for sharing the behind the scenes. That'll do it for Take 5. Which was not nearly as long as it usually is, but was still longer than 5 minutes. See you for the post-game pod on Sunday. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.